Hey, welcome back to Sick of the whatever it is that
Dun,
we're
dun,
supposed to
dun.
be talking about. Totally. On our last episode, we were talking about collagen, and towards the end of that, we were talking about the supplement industry and actually how do I identify a good supplement and how does the supplement industry work? And we wanted to just kind of start layering in some knowledge that people aren't being told and what we can do to help you make good decisions around your supplements. And you just made a great comment just as we were starting before we hit record on this. And I think it's a great opener.
Yeah, let me just lead with this. And again, being hypocritical, this is where I started, but don't buy your supplements where you get your toilet paper and paper towels. The big box stores, they're not serving you.
I can't agree with you more. And like this is the challenge, is there's so many supplements to choose from. And every company, every product is going to promote themselves to be the best. And you get on Facebook, you get on Instagram, you get on Google, you get on any of these sites. Exactly. And you'll see an advertisement for a product. And let's just sort of stay on the online world here for a second. You see a flashy ad that's like, ooh, this looks interesting. This is going to solve my problems. This is speaking to that portion of my head where it's like, hey, I'm looking for help in this area. Let's have a look at this product. So it takes you into what's called a sales funnel. And it's packed with great pictures, totally what you're exactly reel them in, and great pictures and imagery and little stories and stories of success, and then takes you into the ingredients of this ingredient is great because and all this, and I get suckered by it a lot too. And as you read through that, it's like, man, like this is going to fix my problems. This is exactly what I'm looking for. And
Cart,
what's that?
add to cart.
Add to cart. Oh, take the upsell. Look, I could buy 15 more packages of it for $2.99 if I do. Exactly. Great deal. Great deal. Buy more, buy more. Totally. And it's hard because for me as a supplement manufacturer, I have to do some of that marketing as well because it's the way that we attract new customers. So how do we do that honestly? How do we do it ethically? How do we help people understand what's in the products that they're taking? And so we'll break this into a few different points here. And hopefully with these few points that we're going to talk about, it will help people to determine when I get caught into those sales funnels or where I get caught into those pipelines of should I buy this product, here's a couple identifiers for people to make the best decision for themselves. So first and foremost is I find that many companies actually don't display their full supplement facts panel. If a company isn't displaying their full supplement facts panel on their web page, on their product page, I'd say first and foremost, that's a reason for me not to buy the product.
Run away.
Exactly. And we'll get to that. Secondary is and I'm not picking on this company, it's just a product I've got in my hand. If a company doesn't display what's called the non-medical ingredients or other ingredients, and every product will have their nutritional fact or their supplement facts, which is always the description of the ingredients with the amount of daily intake. Okay, so that's the nutritional component of a product. But then every product will also have what's called the non-medical ingredients or the other ingredients. So when you're going through, we'll call it these sales funnels or these web pages, one of the tactics is they'll always talk about the natural ingredients. But for some reason, they always forget to talk about the non-medical or the other ingredients. And people may be looking at me and saying, well, what does that matter? Like, who cares what's, it's there. That is, in my opinion, and I think your opinion, Bria, the determination of, is this company good or not? Because when we look at, from a formulation standpoint of making supplements for people, when we look at I'm going to say that the natural ingredients or the good ingredients, and I can say this as a manufacturer of supplements, it's like anything else that we buy in life. There's garbage, good, better, best, right? And that same thing comes into play with the ingredients that are in products. We call some of them floor sweepings because that's all they're good for. And so how a vitamin, mineral, herb, botanical comes from the earth and makes its way through all of the processing and assembly and packaging and everything to get to your door to land in your house in this product makes a huge difference, because either that ingredient is dead or that ingredient is alive. So ingredients can be washed in alcohols, they can be baked in ovens. There's so many processes that can happen to ingredients on its way from earth to your body that can deem, when this finally arrives at your doorstep, or you buy it in the health food store, wherever you buy your supplementation, have you just bought something that tastes good and has a bit of a placebo effect, and you're actually getting the sensation that you're feeling okay because of actually the non-medical ingredients? There's sugars, there's all sorts of enhancers in these products that can make you feel good, but are you getting the supplementation that you need? Is that making sense, or am I rambling there?
No, and I completely agree. And also, I know from a practitioner standpoint, I want to see exactly what's in those supplements, and I want to see exactly how much. If you're the company is just advertising, this is in your iodine's in your product, or vitamin C. Well, how much? Is it enough to make a difference? Is it a clinical dosage? Is it just a sprinkle of it just to say that I can put it on the label? I want to know more. Quality versus quantity. And you brought up a good point in our last episode, Doug, that I wanted to bring up as well. All of these not all of them, but a lot of supplement companies, are exactly the same. They're from the same manufacturing plant. They just stick a different label on there depending on what website you order from, or what Amazon ad you click on, or whatever. And I will say, as someone in the fitness industry, as the pageant world, all of that stuff, I've been approached by multiple supplement companies to label my own supplements. No, absolutely not. I'm not going to stand behind something that I don't believe in myself. And again, that goes back to quality versus quantity. I'd rather support quality products that I feel safe taking myself, that are focused on the actual clinical studies, the third-party testing. They're putting their money in research, not advertising to as many different influencers as possible. They're actually concerned with, what do these products do? Let's look at these long-term. Let's do some lab tests. Let's do more research. Let's take a step back. Where is this coming from that we're using in our product? So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. And what's hard is, as the owner of a supplement company, the checks and balances, like and I'm not calling any supplement company down, because everybody's going to make their decisions around how they do things. But here's the challenge that I face, and it actually hurts us from a growth standpoint, believe it or not. So when you formulate, manufacture, produce all of your own products, and this is just a little bit of a sneak sort of under the curtain at the industry, at sort of how some of the industry works here. So I'm going to be just a little bit raw and vulnerable on this. When you're the manufacturer of a health supplement product, and you're making that product, you're formulating that product, you're working with your facilities to produce that product, to get it, into your inventory, to get it to the customers. It's a very expensive mission to do so, because you're not just making one bottle at a time, you're making thousands. But that's the only way that you can control your process of what are the ingredients I'm using, what's the lab tests, what are the minimum and maximum tolerances. Like, you have 100% control of the desired outcome of the product that you're going to give to somebody. So much of this industry, and I get approached every day by companies saying, hey, do you want to grow? Do you want to do this? Do you want to bring on our products? Whatever. And if I look at it from a point that is, if all I cared about was making money as a company, it would be a no-brainer to do that, because I would have essentially free inventory that I could just put our label on, pump it out there, and people would never know the difference. So you have to really stay true to the who and what you are and what your mission is as a company. So the hard thing is the bulk of the supplement industry. And when I say this, I'm going to say, you started talking about don't buy your supplements where you buy your toilet paper and toothpaste. Well, there's some reality to that. Whereas when I look at so many of these different brands, and I know where they're making their product, how they're making their product, who's making their product, and so many of these different brands are nothing more than a label. And literally, if you and I wanted to, Bria, we could put some money together. We could come up with a fancy website and some fancy labels and say that we've got these great products and pump them out there, and people would buy them if they trusted the message that we were talking about and the fancy marketing and advertising that we were talking about earlier. And that's the way that so much of this industry works, is you've got these, we'll call them ship and fulfill on demand. And what happens is somebody will make a website, and they'll connect that website to one of these ship and fulfill on demand companies, and they'll design a label and a brand. And when you see that advertisement on Facebook or Instagram or however you've seen it, Google, and you say, okay, you go to that website and add to cart and buy that product, what so much of this industry is doing is, okay, that triggers a line, let's say, that will print out in the fulfillment center to say, okay, print this label to go on this product and ship it to this customer. And that product is being stored with tens of thousands of units in a warehouse. And all of this is an automated process now. Whereas an empty blank container, with what I mean is unlabeled, goes down the assembly line. It's now triggered to print your label on it, go out and ship to your customer. And that's happening hundreds of thousands to millions of times a day. And one, the quality control is extremely low. You, me, whoever created that brand really doesn't have a strong understanding of what their product is. They just see it as a label for somebody to buy a health supplement. And that's how a lot of this industry is being run. So we talked earlier about third-party lab reports. How do I get a third-party lab report for the same lot in our product that all my competitors essentially are going to be running? Right? It's not a third-party lab report. And if you go to our website at ameolife.com, you'll see under every product, right underneath the product image, is a third-party lab report that says Ameolife, this lot, these dates, these tolerances. That's the right way of doing something. But when you're taking a ship and fulfillment on demand product, you can't do that, because the third-party lab report is going to be for the company that produced the product, not for your brand. So you're actually outside of GMP regulations by doing that.
And GMP stands for Good Manufacturing Practice Certified, just FYI, guys.
Exactly. It's through the DSHEA Act of how we're supposed to be regulated as supplement companies. So the other problem is, and I've looked at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these different products, because there are times in a moment of weakness where I'm thinking, man, it would be good to, to bring in some other products that would be sort of easy to market products, let's say, because every time we do a product with the Meal Life, it's a lot of work because we're starting from scratch, right? So it's sometimes in a moment of weakness, I'm like, oh, what's out there? And I think, could I do a gummy, or could I do this, or could I do that? That's low hanging fruit. And then I get into it. And if I talk to one of these companies, I'm like, okay, send me all of your ingredients deck, send me all your paperwork, your certifications, your everything. And I start reading it and I'm just like, wow, like I get so excited about what we're doing and how we're doing it. But two, I'm just like, man, it's like, it's so bad. It's the only thing I can say is it's so bad that these ingredients, these formulations, these products that people are buying don't have a hope in truly making a difference in their wellness. And then I see these companies selling these products for 50, 60, 80, $100 for, a tub of whatever it is. And it's just like, so it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I know that, a lot of people may not want to hear what we're talking about here today, but this is the honest truth of how this industry works. And it's so frustrating that, like I say, I've got thousands of pages of formulations and ingredients decks and all these kind of stuff from these different products. But when I look at these supplements and I see the first non-medical ingredient is sugar, is chlorides, is alcohols, red 40, like, I'm like, if you're going to put those ingredients in as the top non-medical ingredients, how does that give me any faith as a consumer that we talked about, bad, worst, better, best is ingredients, that company is going to be dedicated enough to their customer to use good ingredients? Or are they just buying the cheapest wholesale ingredient that they can throw into that product?
Yeah, and let's, I mean, I don't want to call out any companies, but if you think of a company that's blue with the yellow star that's known as a low cost leader, what do you think you're going to get? Quality versus quantity. And let's take fish oils, for example. Did you guys know that, if you're buying your fish oils, omega 3s, your omega 3s and 6s need to be in ratio. And also that breaks down as EPAs versus DHAs and, all of the conversion and nerdy science stuff. Yeah, okay. But if you're buying fish oils that taste fishy and smell, they're most likely rancid. If they're rancid, they're doing more harm than good. So it's not just that a product's not working, it can actually be harmful. And I know, one reason that Doug and I connected, and I've talked to multiple supplement companies before, but I want to know what's in those products. And I read what was in the multivitamins and saw methylcobalamin versus cyanocobalamin, folate versus folic acid. And I saw that GMP, that good manufacturing practice certified. And I know that, this company is about people, not profits.
Can I say something else to you too? Just on the whole GMP thing, is we can't even trust GMP at this standpoint, because it's a good indicator, but what GMP basically, if we rip apart what a company needs to do to be GMP, it's how the ingredients come into their facility, how they're quarantined, how the cleanliness of the company, the lab testing and that kind of stuff. But you can skirt by as being a GMP company meeting the minimum standards, but it just means that you're manufacturing. It's like a restaurant. if you go into a restaurant and the health inspector shuts the restaurant down because it's gross and pots are leaking, and you just think of a disgusting restaurant. Think of that sort of same principle as GMP, is how the supplement manufacturing arm has to properly operate from a cleanliness, and basically what you put on here is what it says it's going to be, and it's going to be backed up by the lab report. But just because it's GMP doesn't actually mean that it's going to potentially be a better product. There's a lot of the substandard products that I'm talking about with this today that are actually all GMP certified, but it doesn't mean that the product is any good. So that's just food for thought on that. It's kind of crazy. So it kind of goes back to, how do we determine if a supplement is worth taking, or if that supplement company cares enough about me as their consumer that they're supplying me with the product? Absolute step one, non-medical ingredients on the supplement facts panel. Forget about everything else on that supplement facts panel. First, go to the non-medical ingredients. If you're seeing a whole bunch of words that you can't pronounce and that you can't understand, because natural words don't end up with chloride, hydrox, or whatever it may be, right? So that's number one. If you see sugar, if you see, red 40, blue this, yellow that, non-natural ingredients.
If you see any type of artificial dyes or sweeteners, just
Right.
run. Just
Stay
stop
away
and
from it.
run.
Stay away from it. And you're going to have to do some work. Like, don't get bought into the emotional component of the front of a label because it looks sexy and the colors are nice and it's got a couple trust symbols and doctor approved. Forget about that. Forget about that. Totally. Step number one, go here. If that matches your criteria, okay, step number two, look at the rest of it. And if you really want to take it to the next level, look on the website to see if they do have a third-party lab test. More than anything, what that lab test is going to tell you is that company is actually producing their own product. So when we talked about those, those fulfillment on demand products that, are just printing a label and sending it out, I think it's way more important to buy from a company that's producing their own product. Because if they're producing their own product, they're producing their product because they want to be in the industry. They're doing it for a reason, and they're putting their money where their mouth is to say, hey, I care about humanity. I want to produce this product for my customer base because it will make a difference. That's a company that you want to look to do business with. And I'm going to say, start the process of trusting with your natural wellness. And we could go on for hours about this, but that's kind of the quick evaluation process, let's say, of making smarter decisions with your supplementation.
Absolutely. And that's so helpful. I loved just how you really summarized it up. Let's start looking at the non-medical ingredients, and let's work from there. So great, easy first steps that all of our listeners can inspect their pantries and cabinets with.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us, and we will be back with some more hopefully enlightening discussions, and I hope that everybody that's watching this is getting some takeaways and some learning from this. We're just here to present the truth, as harsh as it may be sometimes, but it just give people with good information to make the best choices, for their health.
Absolutely.
Thank you.